guys. So first things first, can everybody see?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So real quick, just about the glass. It's about half an inch thick, all right? It's not tinted, it's not magnified, so everything we see down below really is how it looks, okay? Now a lot of people wonder, like, what would happen if one of the glasses fell out? Absolutely nothing. This boat is designed to float even without any glass in it, okay? Now please do not test this, okay? So because this is a nighttime cruise, I want to tell you about a few nighttime creatures we may see. All right, the most popular one we'll probably see are the fry. Okay, these are little silver fish. They're about an inch big, and they are at the very bottom of the food chain. Okay, so we may see a little bit of carnage tonight because we also, I've seen a few of them, we have the gray snapper. All right, it's a gray fish. And it usually has a black line running through its eye. This is usually an indication that the fish is feeling either hungry or aggressive. So as I said earlier, we might see them snacking. Okay, another sea creature I want you guys to look out for are these spiny lobsters. Now they won't just really be out and about, they'll probably be hidden amongst the rocks, so you really do have to look out for them. Now, spiny lobsters are different to the Maine lobster, in that they have no claws, okay? They also have two antennas hidden right behind their eyes, and they are mottled brown, kind of, okay? Something else I want you guys to look out for are the moray eels. These will also be hidden amongst the rocks within them, and we might see them if they come out, try and pinch a fry or something like that, okay? Now they will be green in color. And the final thing I want you to look out for are sleeping turtles, okay? Now, most of the time during the day, we won't see them just because they're scared of the boat. But at night, sometimes if we're lucky, we may see one that is sleeping. Now, if you do see any sea creatures at any point in time, please point, shout, let it all out, because I can tell you everyone else wants to see that too, okay? With that being said, if anyone has any questions at any time, feel free to ask, okay? Now, has anyone been down to the Caribbean before? Yeah, a few of you? All right. So you may notice that our corals do not look like the corals in the Caribbean. Mainly that they're much more muted in color. So the yellows, browns, pinks, and purples.
What is that?
And many people think that this means that our corals are unhealthy. However, this is not the case. We have one of the healthiest coral reef systems in the entire world. So the reason for our corals to be so muted in color is because we actually have the northernmost coral reef system in the world, okay? This means that these corals have to withstand temperature fluctuations from 87 degrees in the summer all the way down to 59 degrees in the winter. Okay, this means we only have the toughest types. So those pink neon corals that you'll see down in the Caribbean or Great Barrier Reef, we do not have those here because they can't withstand our temperature fluctuations. Now, down below, we have two types of corals. We have the hard corals, which are kind of like a rock, and then we have the soft corals, which will move with the current. As for the hard corals, we have a couple subtypes. So mainly we'll see those yellow ones with grooves in them, kind of like a brain. These are called brain coral. Then we have a yellowy orange one. It will look a bit like a cluster of stars, star coral. And finally, we have another yellow one. Looks kind of like the head of a cauliflower. Any guesses to what its name is? Cauliflower coral. Alrighty, you guys are so smart. Paying attention. Now, as for the soft coral, okay, we have these rod-like things reaching up at us. Those are called sea rods. And then we also have the purple sea fans. They're purple. They live in the sea, and they look like a fan. In Bermuda, we like to keep things simple. So if you can name it, if you can see it and describe it, you have probably already named it. Okay? Now, in Bermuda, we have very healthy coral reefs, like I said. But I'm sure many of you know that the Great Barrier Reef is practically dying, right? And this is terrible news, as coral reefs make up about a third of the ocean's oxygen. All right? And they're especially important here in Bermuda because, as Zoe said, they surround us on around 300 square miles of Bermuda. and they protect us from coastal erosion. So they break down the swells of the ocean, and I'm not sure if any of you were awake, but you may have noticed, if you were, that the swells got smaller and smaller the further inshore you came. So without these corals, we would cease to exist. This, of course, means that we take great care of our corals, because corals are extremely sensitive. If I were to go down there, place my hand on a coral, come back a month later, my handprint would be etched into the coral. If I were to come back a year later, the entire coral would be dead. This is why here in Bermuda, we have a law where you can be fined up to $10,000 if you are caught taking, or breaking coral. Okay? So we take it very seriously. Now, some of you may know that Hawaii was one of the first countries to ban sunblocks. And this is because most sunblocks contain one of 8 chemicals called oxybenzone. And oxybenzone, what it does is when you lather it up on your skin and immediately jump right into the ocean, it'll actually come off pretty immediately and just sit on the ocean surface like a sheet of paper. And this will prevent the sun from penetrating the water. And therefore, the corals cannot feed. Now, most people think that corals are plants, and while that is halfway true, it's not entirely true, because they have a symbiotic relationship with a plant cell called zooxanthellae and an animal cell called a polyp. So you may have noticed that some of the corals are kind of fuzzy, while others were more straight and pokey. This is because those fuzzy ones, so we can see some sea rods here that are quite fuzzy, they're feeding. Now, these are the polyps. Polyps have tentacles, and they reach out trying to eat the algae swimming in the water, okay? And they live on a 12-hour cycle. So they feed for 12 hours, and they sleep for 12 hours. Kind of like the cruise ship schedule. Now, as I was saying, sunblock will prevent the sun from penetrating the water, and the plant cell zooxanthellae cannot photosynthesize, which is why here in Bermuda, we try and opt for reef-safe sunblock. So those are the sunblocks that contain zinc, zinc oxide, titanium oxide, and all of those. So while you're here, it might be something to think about. Now, while being extremely sensitive, corals are also extremely slow growing. Can anyone guess how long it takes a coral to get to the size of a football?
100 years.
10 years? Not quite. Anyone else? No? It takes about 100 years. It takes a long time. But as a matter of fact, if we were to go offshore, we could find corals about the size of a small car. So imagine how long they've been down there. They're getting pretty old. Almost as old as Zoe. Don't tell her I said that. But yes. Now, another fish I want to tell you guys about are the parrotfish. So here in Bermuda, we have about 14 different species of parrotfish. So if you guys go to the beach like Horseshoe Bay, you may actually see them there. These are these brightly colored fish, and they have a beak like a parrot. Now, they're incredibly important to Bermuda's coral reef system because they eat the algae off the corals, digest it, and poop it out as sand. And one parrotfish can produce about a ton of sand each year. So if you guys are planning on going to any of our big sand beaches, just know that when all that sand is nice up in between your toes, that is all parrotfish feces. But they're also protected here in Bermuda, so we cannot fish for them. Countries down in the Caribbean, like Jamaica, they will fish them and they'll eat them. It's a delicacy there. However, here in Bermuda, that is not allowed. As a matter of fact, we had a foreigner here in Bermuda, and he was pulled over. They found a parrotfish in his bike seat. He was fined $10,000 and then was deported. So we take our laws very seriously. But that's because we like to have the healthy coral reef system, like I said earlier. Now, you guys may have noticed some brown little log-like things sitting on the ocean floor. Yeah? Well, those are sea cucumbers. They are not the most exciting sea creature in the world, but I think they're pretty cool, okay? They have a mouth and an anus. They move about an inch a day, and they clean our sand. So they'll eat the sand, digest it, clean it up a bit there, and they'll poop out clean sand, right? Now, that's not the cool part about these sea cucumbers, okay? The cool part is, if you were to go down there, pick one up, take it out of the water, and give it a little squeeze, they become natural water guns. So pretty fun. But you have to be really careful with sea cucumbers because when they feel threatened, they will expel all of their organs onto you. And make a quick getaway of the kitchen bay. So yeah, be a little careful with them if you do choose to go and play with them. Now we are heading over to our shipwreck, okay? So I just want to tell you guys about the shipwreck real quick. It will not look like the shipwreck in your fish tank. There's no pirate flag at the helm, no skeleton on the bow, and none of that. Okay? It will look more like a natural coral reef system, and that's because it's a real shipwreck. It's been down there for about 129 years. So you're gonna have to look out for her markings. So I want you guys to look out for circles. These will be portholes. I want you to look out for rectangles. These will be hatches. You may notice a drop-off. That is the side of the shipwreck. A natural coral reef system will peter out gradually. Also, any flat surface, that will be the deck of the shipwreck. We may also see the boiler room, and I will point these out as we go along, okay? So we are just about coming up to it, so I will start. Does anyone have any questions before I start? No? Perfect. Okay, so the shipwreck we are visiting is the HMS Vixen. Her Majesty's ship, the Vixen. She was built in 1864 by the British Royal Navy. She was a twin screw-steam engine, which meant that she had two engines, and she was actually the first of her kind. Okay? And she was also built in the Roman ramming style. What this means is she had a part on her bow which actually extended forward, and she would use this to ram into enemy vessels. Now this is a great idea in theory. However, we had one little problem. Here we are at the shipwreck. Yep, here we go. We can see part of the boiler room here. Yeah, sorry. So this was a great idea in theory, right? However, there was one small issue. She could only go about 7 knots. Other enemy ships at this time were going about 14. Now, for reference, on our way out here, we were going about 9 to 10. So your little rinky-dink glass-bottom boat was faster than this warship. It's not too good. It's pretty hard to ram into an enemy vessel if you can't even catch up to them. Okay? So, this wasn't even their biggest problem, as she was built entirely out of cast iron. And if you guys know anything about cast iron and salt water, it's that they do not mix. So she was rusting, and she was rusting quick. And the bright thinkers of the day, here we see the deck of the shipwreck. Oh, and I think that was a hatch back there. Yep, right there is a hatch. You see that rectangular shape there covered up? Yeah. Yeah, so the bright thinkers of the day back then, they decided that they were going to take her out of the water and encase her entirely in teak wood. Now, teak wood makes for great patio furniture. Okay, it will not. Oh, here's porthole. Makes for great patio furniture. Okay, it will not move an inch during a hurricane. Okay, this of course means it's incredibly dense and heavy. So this only slowed her down. Now she was only going about 4.5 knots. So in a desperate attempt to make her faster, the British Royal Navy decided to turn her into a hybrid vessel. So 3 heavy wooden masts later, and she ended up bottoming out at about 4 knots. So the British Royal Navy did what they did best with all of their problems. They sent them down to one of the colonies and pretended they were a gift. That's how we got most of our governors. So when we got her, we were told we could use her as coastal defense, but we realized pretty quickly that would not work out. She was too slow, too cumbersome, and too big. So instead, we just brought her up to dockyard, tied her alongside, and used her as a floating dormitory for the Irish convicts who were building dockyard at the time. And you know, this worked great for a few years. She just had to sit there and look pretty, not too hard. But then she caught fire. Yep, she burnt down. So at this point, we had to get a little creative, okay? And we decided we were going to use her as coastal defense, just not in the way we originally planned. So Zoe mentioned earlier that there's a channel that goes out to sea which you guys came in on, lots of twists and turns. If an enemy ship were to come down that way, we would have plenty of time to protect ourselves. However, we have another channel, and that's this very channel right here. It goes directly out to sea, and we have no forts on the side of the island. So if an enemy ship were to come along this way, we wouldn't realize until it was too late and they would kill us all. So we decided we were going to blow her up and use her as a natural speed bump so that when an enemy ship would come, they would ram right into her, they would sink, and we would all be safe. However, the guy they hired to blow her up, you know, I'm sure he was a great guy, and I'm sure he even had a skill or two. But let me tell you, it was not in the field of explosives. He used way too much, put it on the middle, and he blew her in two. Her stern got rocketed about 30 feet backwards, which is what we are over right now. So you'll notice here we can see the deck of the shipwreck. And then her bow got catapulted on top of a naturally existing coral reef system. So now if an enemy ship were to come, they would see the vixen, they would realize, can't go that way, let's go around, and then they would proceed to kill us all. So even in sinking, she was a failure. So at that point we did what Bermudians do best. We called it, porthole, we called it a day, and we had a swivel. We left her down here for quite some time, and then in about the 70s, we decided to send some scientists down, check out what was going on. Here we can see the stern, very clear line there. So yeah, we had some scientists come down, check her out in the 70s, and they actually made an amazing discovery. They found that cast iron speeds up coral growth about 3 to 5 times. So you may notice that some of the corals are looking a little bit bigger than the size of a football. And like I said earlier, she's only been here for about 129 years. We put her down here in about 1896. So this was an amazing discovery, and we decided to, from then on, just toss all of our cast iron scraps into the ocean. And it has really benefited us, because like I said, we have one of the healthiest coral reef systems in the world. So that is the story of the HMS Vixen. Does anyone have any questions? No? Alrighty then. Well then, at this time, I will be done speaking. So you guys can head back upstairs, you can stay down here, and thank you guys so much for listening.